The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the official position of the host, other guests, or any affiliated entities. Each participant is responsible for their own statements and opinions. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hola, mi enchada, and welcome back for another edition of High Trust, Low Context. I'm your host, El Chaco, and with me tonight for episode 16, good friend of the show, a frequent flyer, so to speak, Tab Birt. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, man, I'm glad we were able to find a time that worked. I had to take a long hiatus there for a while because internet was spottier than ever, and power outages were happening all the time. And you and I have a 3-hour difference right now.
Yep.
So, but we're coming up. I think in March, you guys will get 1 hour closer, and then we'll be another hour closer by the end of March. So it'll be a little easier for me to book my North American guests, because I think.
Oh no. Elon Musk has let El Chaco down. This is pure comedy. All this preparation, and then here we are. The satellites get shot out of orbit because World War III is starting. The Russians are invading. Maybe it's my internet that's bad. I don't know. I just work here. How about that fat beat in that intro? Who does not love the High Trust, Low Context intro? Whenever I listen to the show, I'll be like riding to work and I'll have the show on, just whatever the latest episode is, I'll throw it in the playlist in my phone. And then, that beat kicks in while I'm like on the highway. I'm very worried that I'm going to lay the bike over in the middle and just get like run over by a semi truck for some reason and drop dead. But, worse things have happened, I'm sure. This is my show now. This is the way I handle podcasts. I frequently guest, and then I just take it over. And so now, welcome to High Trust, Low Context with me. Today we're going to be talking about, and also I'm going to change the format a little bit. So, El Chaco, he comes at this from, his Catholic belief system and talks about wrestling and, comedy, and brings his friends on. I'm not going to do any of that because I'm not very religious. But what I do love is Star Trek. So what this is actually going to be, we're going to go ahead and start this episode out. I'm going to review the episode Encounter at Farpoint, which is the beginning of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I haven't watched it I don't know the last time I watched Encounter at Farpoint, but I am going to give you a blow-by-blow description of that episode completely from memory. I'm not going to give you any kind of insight or anything to tell you anything about the episode history. I'm just going to go plot point by plot point through the entire episode and then release that out onto a platform as if I've created some kind of content and not just wasted an hour and a half of your time, because that's what every Star Trek podcast is. And so by high trust, low context means, there's no actual context about what's going on in the episode. And then on the other side of it, the high trust is that you're just gonna have to trust that I know what I'm talking about. Craig Weston comments, can I make comments pop up on this thing? I can. Check that shit out. I am the master. I'm running this. Craig Weston asks, hey, Tab, not to interrupt your train of thought, but how is life treating you since HWIDG? Peaks and valleys. Things are good. Sometimes things are bad. Other times, just kind of depends. So I talked about the last time I was on was in October, and I talked about how in September I fell down and tore through 3 ligaments in my foot and spent like the better part of a month on this peg leg. And I put on some weight during that time. Not that I was very light to begin with, but the beginning of January, I discovered that I had lost almost 40 pounds since getting off the peg leg in mid-October. And then since early January, when I decided to I was like, well, I'm going to purloin this losing weight to try and lose more weight. I've now lost 20 pounds. So I'm down 60 pounds from where I was in the last time I was on this show, which is
whoa,
rewarding. Yeah. I had to buy new pants yesterday because none of my pants fit anymore. They're all carry a walkie-talkie at work, and it just drags my pants almost clean off my body. So I finally went and bought 4 pairs of jeans, two that are the right size and 2 that are a size that's kind of snug, with the hopes that I can make it until May, figure out how much weight I'm actually going to totally lose, and then start buying new clothes again.
Can I recommend something for wherever you end up at? I can't recommend this enough. It's called the Grip 6 belt. Have you heard about this thing?
I have not.
Oh, it's the best. It's like a belt that doesn't use belt loops, and it actually holds in place perfectly. It's just like this perfect design. And I get it as gifts for people because I use it. It's my favorite belt I've ever had. You can find it on Amazon and all that kind of stuff. It's called the Grip 6. It's perfect. We have been having these power burps the last little while here. There's really this weird thing that's happening where we are, we're having before when we were doing Here's What I Don't Get, the power would go out whenever there was a storm, and there seemed to be a storm all the time. Now we're getting them just randomly for no reason. Like on Saturday, we had a 5-hour power outage that went from 8 p.m. until 1 a.m. and it's hot as heck out here. So it's absolutely brutal. But the one problem that so I have Starlink now, and the one problem that Starlink does is when I get these little power burps, it takes a good chunk of time for it to kind of reconnect to the internet. It's not like my other modem or my other thing where it would kind of get back on within maybe 10-30 seconds. While you were like a good professional that you are and handling the show while I was off, I was just fiddling around back here trying to plug in other things, trying to get some sort of internet going. But thankfully, we're back. I apologize. It's a humility test, to go through these things. But yeah, man, you said you've lost how much? 60 pounds?
60 pounds since the last time I was on the show, basically.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
The last time you were on the show, was that in November?
October. It was mid to late October.
Was it the Zach King episode, or did I have you in between that? I thought I had you in between.
Oh, maybe I was on between. It was since the Zach King episode.
Okay, yeah, man. And I've probably put on about 6 pounds since then. I got my new office. It's kind of boring behind me. I gotta do something behind me. I originally, sort of based on your advice, I painted it green behind me, and I thought that would give me enough for a good green screen effect. No, it's this paint didn't work, and the walls are not smooth enough. I don't know, but I'll try with with a different kind of lighting or something like that. But if not, I'll put some dangly things behind me, and I won't have the cool universe that you've got going on. But,
yeah.
But
just this was the first. This was actually the second image that I found in my wallpapers background, which is why. Oh, look, there's a watermark right there. That's super annoying.
Don't you love it when you see people using clearly stock footage and it'll have the watermark of iStock photo or something, or Alarmy or something like that? But yeah, man, this is great. It's been a little while. It took, like I was trying to say before the power went out and before it goes out again, I had to take a hiatus only because it was a Christmas season. We were finishing off this office, and I could not guarantee that my internet that I had from before was going to be able to handle it. It kept on dropping off. It would go from 32 megabytes per second down to 0.5 megabytes per second, and you couldn't get anywhere with it. But the Starlink's working out relatively well, although I spend a lot of money to put the antenna on my roof with this Ridgeline kit that they got, and it's got these ballast weights that you put in there, and so I put it on the roof. But I got a metal roof, and I think that the heat just turns into a convection oven up there, just kind of it reflects right onto the thing. And so these things are supposed to be able to handle up to like 120 degrees Fahrenheit, but I wonder, because of just the way the metal is, I think it just gets even hotter than that. So what I'm looking at doing is I'm going to buy, they sell these like silicone mats for heat resistance that you put underneath like a toaster oven or something like that in the kitchen. And so I'm just going to buy like a whole bunch of these mats to put underneath it to hopefully help with that. And then for the cable, I'm going to buy a bunch of like, like heat envelopes or wraps that you would put in like a mechanic, like in a car, and see if that will help the cable out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, man, it's good to have you back on. I'm glad we got some people on here. I had our last episode I did on Saturday, and it was just because of the timing. It was like a midday on a Saturday, and I said to my buddy who Mr. Black, who came on for the first time, I said, don't expect a huge turnout in the middle of a Saturday. Yeah. But I was telling you before you came on the show tonight that maybe you would, I would have totally been fine bumping it out a night if you got tickets to go to Monday Night Raw in St. Louis tonight. And in the past, you've worked with WWE, but you're not in that position right now, I guess, right?
Yeah. When I was living in Tulsa, I think I did it 2 or 3 times before I moved here. And now I don't work in like the stagehand industry anymore. So I didn't even know it was happening. Oh, but I guess it's probably happening down there at the Enterprise Center or one of the places downtown.
Where do the Blues play?
That's the Enterprise Center.
Okay. Did he used to be the Kiel Center or something like that, or no? Maybe
it might
I
have
got
been
that wrong. Maybe it's Denver. But yeah, there's a lot of eyes on that program tonight. I was going to kind of use a loose topic of do the right thing. And the WWE is not doing the right thing. On the last episode that I did, I was talking about Vince McMahon and his scandals that are happening. And those are bad. I have a feeling that the WWE now is trying to get as much attention off of that as possible. And what better way to do that than to create a totally new scandal, but like in the storyline. So they have a character, they have a guy named Cody Rhodes, and he's the son of the late great Dusty Rhodes, who's like a wrestling legend. And he's gone through it. He's been treated badly by the company. He went off into the indies, became an indie darling, and then ended up helping being a founding member of AEW, which is the number one competitor for the WWE now. And then he ended up getting signed back to WWE, and then became probably one of their biggest baby faces in history. Like, he's super over with the crowd. And last year, this is a kind of guy who's so devoted to his work that at one point in time, he had a pectoral muscle that had completely separated from the bone. And if you saw his pectoral, his pecs, it was just all like dark purple. And he completed the match that he was in, and he completed the match, and then finally afterwards got the surgery and rehabbed. So everybody has like a lot of respect for him. And then last year, because Roman Reigns is their reigning champion, and Roman Reigns is, if he keeps the championship throughout the year, he'll break Hulk Hogan's record for longest consecutive belt streak. And it's not the biggest of all time, because like in the 70s, they used to like give it to somebody for like a decade. Like it was like Bruno Sammartino held it forever. But to beat Hulk Hogan is a big deal. So last year, Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble, which meant that if you win the Royal Rumble, you get to choose which champion you want to take on to challenge. And so he won.
WrestleMania?
And at WrestleMania. So he went and he won, or last year he won the Royal Rumble. Then he got a chance to beat Roman Reigns, but in typical Roman Reigns fashion, they cheated him and it prolonged it. And a lot of people were really upset. I thought it was the right call. I was like, keep it going. You got to keep that chase going. So this year it comes down to it, and it's like it's CM Punk and it's Cody Rhodes in the finals of the final two guys in the Royal Rumble, and Cody Rhodes wins, and CM Punk gets injured. Meanwhile, we had that whole Vince McMahon thing happen, which included Brock Lesnar in it. which means that Brock Lesnar is not going to be he wasn't in the Royal Rumble, and he's not going to be at WrestleMania. He's probably never going to step foot in the ring again. We'll see. So everybody's like, okay, like Cody's going to have his chance to rematch against Roman Reigns. Like, even when he won the championship, he got up onto the corner and he pointed at the WrestleMania sign. And then he goes over and he points to Roman Reigns with his entourage up in the VIP box. And he literally shouts, you, Roman Reigns, you. Because he gets to choose between him or to either fight Roman Reigns or to fight Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes to Friday Night SmackDown. It's in Birmingham, Alabama. And Roman Reigns comes to the ring because Seth Rollins made his pitch for, Cody, come and challenge me. And then Roman Reigns came in and did his whole shtick. So Cody Rhodes comes into the ring. He, everybody's going wild for him. He talks about how hard he's worked and how you've cheated me in the past, blah, 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 blah. I'm not here to just take away your championship. I'm coming here to take everything from you. I'm going to take your legacy. I'm going to take your blah, blah, blah. He just lays this really great promo down and then finishes with, but not at WrestleMania. Exactly. That's the reaction. Yeah,
where else are you going to do it?
And he's like, because I've been talking to other people in the business and I talked to somebody who really knows you well. And then boom, the music for The Rock, Dwayne Johnson starts and he comes to the ring. And it was the most pathetic, sad thing I've ever seen. Because basically he comes to the ring and, comes in. The crowd's going wild because it's Birmingham and they're like starstruck by Dwayne Johnson. But like Dwayne goes and he shakes Cody's hand and Cody's like got that he's got that FU face on. Like he's just like,
correct me if I'm wrong, but The Rock has always been a baby face, right?
He was a heel at times, but I mean, when he comes back, because he's Mr. Hollywood now, he's definitely always a baby face now.
Okay.
And although it's funny because you go back through like clips from before, the last time he was at WrestleMania wrestling was against John Cena. And John Cena laid some promos down on him that now seem pretty prescient because he was calling him out for being a part-timer, not showing up to like fan events, not actually helping the business and just kind of showing up and doing his thing and going away. So Cody gives him the shake of the hand. Rock leans in, he whispers something to him. It's like, not your time, kid, something like that. Because like the whole thing, there's like a whole meme about like Cody Rhodes. I'm going to finish the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cody Rhodes goes to get out of the ring. He's got his suit on. And, there's these subtleties, like little movements that say so much. And as he's going out, he just does one of these, like just a little nose flick, and then goes and gets out of the ring. Walks around, takes it in from the crowd, goes out, and then there's a stare down between The Rock and Roman Reigns, and then it ends the show.
So those two are going to fight at WrestleMania?
Yes, it's going to be Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania.
Who fucking cares about The Rock?
People are pissed off. Well, so get this. So when Vince McMahon got removed or took himself out of the board of directors at WWE, they announced two new people that were added, and one of them was Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is I'm going to say a waning star. I mean, yeah, he still can draw money, but he's a waning star. He hasn't his television show got canceled. The Fast and the Furious franchise is kind of on its way out.
But it's not the Fast and Furious isn't even his. I mean,
but it started dying when he came in, right?
Yeah.
So and then
I wouldn't say it was dying when he came in. I mean, Fast 5 was where it like really, but
peaked.
But 8 was where it really peaked, and then he wasn't in 9 because they put him in his own movie, and that movie was a piece of crap.
I've never seen a single one, so I can't comment on that franchise.
They are.
I bet I am.
They are. Oh, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do a podcast special series where I find someone who's never watched any of the Fast and Furious movies, and you watch one of you. So you watch Fast and Furious 1, right? The Fast and the Furious. Yeah. And then you try and predict what happens in Fast and Furious 11 that's coming out like next year. And then you watch Fast and Furious 2, and you try
mean
and predict,
Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yeah, you try and predict what happens in 11. And the thing is, no matter how crazy you go, you'll never predict what happens in these movies.
I know that there's a car that goes to space at some point, but they well, and also, like, I mean, you can't totally put the death of the DC cinematic universe on him.
You could put a bunch of it on him, though.
But you could put a big chunk on him. I mean, the Flash didn't help.
I mean, he was a producer on that Black Adam movie, and he was adamant that it be what it was, and then it was a huge flop.
Well, and that doesn't surprise me because he still gets paid. Like, he gets paid a lot of money for what he does. And so I don't know how much you know about, like, the business of Hollywood, but, like, which talent agency you're with matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever watched Entourage, did you ever watch Entourage?
I did not.
I enjoyed it for a while. It's degenerate. I probably wouldn't watch it now, but like it in it, Jeremy Piven plays a character named Ari Gold. And Ari Gold is basically their version of a real life guy named Ari Emanuel. And Ari Emanuel is the brother of Rahm Emanuel,
who was the
formerly
mayor of Chicago.
Barack Obama's right-hand man and the mayor of Chicago.
Yeah.
And Ari Emanuel is the head of CAA, or Creative Artists Agency, which is the biggest talent agency in the world. So Ari Emanuel's group was the one that bought WWE. So there was the same group that also bought UFC. So UFC and WWE are under one banner now called TKO Holdings. And so the head of TKO Holdings is Ari Emanuel, who just happens to be the agent of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Part of the package for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to come in as a board member included a bonus of, if he returns to the ring in a meaningful capacity, he gets a $30 million payday.
Oh,
so they have a.
And then Ari Emanuel gets 15%.
He gets his cut. Gets his cut.
$4.5 million.
Now the weird thing is that there was rumors ahead of time before the sale of WWE to TKO Holdings that there was actually a buyer. It was going to be the Saudis. So there was a Saudi group that wanted to buy them, and the price they were going to pay was way higher than what TKO played out. So right after TKO takes over, shortly after that, that's when, like, the Vince McMahon scandal hits. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like, there's some weird timing on that. You
think that's weird? You don't think that is constructed? I mean, I think that's obviously constructed.
Allegedly,
I mean,
they got powerful lawyers.
I haven't listened to Saturday's episode yet, but as far as, like, the Vince McMahon scandal goes, and that woman being like, he was creepy and weird to me and, like, sexual harassment, like, you knew what was going on. You knew what was happening there, and only now that it's convenient for someone else to get rid of him.
I'm still glad she's outing him. I'm still glad she's outing him.
I'm not saying he's not a pervert and a creep.
Oh, he's horrible.
I hate that that there are these women that they're totally fine with these types of quote predatory relationships until a time where it's beneficial to them to not be okay with it now.
Well,
that it's in the
past. She lays it out. I mean, if she's telling the truth, he was grooming, and I think there's a big part. So in the last episode, I mentioned that like, we talked a lot about how fatherhood or fatherlessness is a big portion of why Vince is the way he is. Yeah. And that, like, we went into Vince's backstory, and the thing is that, so if you read the document, it's a long, lengthy, and it's one of those dreadful documents where you're reading it and you know the ending. And so you're just like, and you're going through it, and, like, in it, he lived in the same building as her. Her parents had died. She hadn't got the job experience because she was tending to her parents. The building manager introduced her to him to see if he could get her a job at WWE. He said, yeah, I'll get, I can definitely get you a job. And he took a shining to her. But every time he would she would go to meet with him to kind of discuss ahead of time, when she goes to a interview or something like that, he was real creepy. He was all about hugging, long hugs. And he would show up to the door in his underwear. I mean, it's yes, all the signs are there right from the get-go. But we need to teach our daughters that when you meet a billionaire and he takes a shining to you and he thinks you've got great ideas, chances are he doesn't think you have good ideas and he's setting you up for something.
Yeah.
So, this guy's saying, Craig is saying the Vince stuff is only coming out because he stopped paying the bribe money. Vince has a habit of backing out of agreements when it suits him. Absolutely true. Stampede Wrestling, the Hart family, when I was growing up in Calgary, they had sold to Vince McMahon, and they were going to keep it alive so that they would get to be a part of trying to, be basically being a feeder system for the WWF. And he just stopped paying them, And so in this case, I mean, he defecated in her hair. He defecated in her hair. He used adult toys that he named after different wrestlers. He pawned her off. The thing is he was trafficking her, and she felt like she was in a real bind. Again, we either take her at her word or we take the guy who writes fake fighting at his word. I don't know. It's weird, but where there's smoke, there's fire. So when they did this thing, they got there's something like $12 to $17 million in hush money he's been paying out for years. But what she did is he forces her to sign an NDA. She signs the NDA, which apparently isn't binding, but he forces her to sign the NDA. He claims that it's for $3 million. He pays $1 million and then welches on the remainder. And I think that has a lot to do with it too, on the timing. I mean, she probably would have backed away. But this is the kind of guy we're talking about here. This is the kind of guy that we're talking about. So he gets pushed out the door. He resigns. He'll probably find his way back. He's not going to prison. He should, but he won't.
Well, they can't take him to prison. He looks too much like not Leslie Nielsen. He looks too much like Buford T. Justice in Smoking the Bandit now.
You've seen this mustache, Vince, now, hey? It's pretty epic.
All he needs is the hat and the glasses, and he will be Buford Justice.
So The Rock comes back. He makes his big appearance. There's a huge creative team, and Triple H, who is married to Vince's daughter, who isn't speaking to her own father, who has barred him from seeing his own grandchildren. So he was the head of creative, Triple H. And apparently he'd been building this story of Cody Rhodes this whole time. And The Rock used his veto power, allegedly, and just basically inserted himself into the main event and pushed the whole thing aside. So the whole thing of finish the story, we're not going to finish the story. Likely not going to finish the story. And we're not going to finish it properly, because what you just did is you just buried the Royal Rumble. You buried the other title. You buried Cody Rhodes. You buried WrestleMania, and you buried any trust that we would have over the storytelling of it. It's ridiculous.
And
you ever seen
would it really have hurt for them to wait another year to do this and
to
finish
the
this
Rock
story
in?
and start a new one? Yeah.
Well, okay.
Right? Don't you feel like that would be it's a television show, right? This season's over. We finished the Cody Rhodes story, and now we're gonna do the big the Rock comeback story.
So this is getting mainstream coverage. It's getting it's getting covered in USA Today. It's getting covered in ESPN. It's getting a lot of coverage. TMZ, all these things are talking about. It was trending. It's still trending. We Want Cody is still trending on Twitter big time. But the thing is that they're now trying to claim that they knew they were going to go in this direction before the Royal Rumble, which begs the question, well, why didn't you just put The Rock in the Royal Rumble and have him win so that he's the one that takes it from Roman Reigns, and then Cody Rhodes has to like fight from that, and then maybe he gets him next year. But by just going, you know what, I'm not going to do it this year. Here you go. You just made him into like a wrestling cuck, you know, like that's what you did. And so people are pissed off. And here's the thing. So I talk with Sully all the time. We have a group where we talk with a couple of other guys who've done booking. We're booking our shows now, like, you know, the wrestling in Paraguay. I'm not an owner of this or anything like that. I just kind of help Sully out with his shows, but you know, I help out with some of the creative when he's doing it. And I said to him, I was like, because we were talking about like, who would you book? How would you have booked it? And I think there's a completely obvious one that they completely biffed on. I mean, The Rock clearly should have not gone and taken Cody out of the thing. You've got WrestleMania is now 2 nights. So you have the opportunity to do 2 different main events should you want to do it that way. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but like one of the big stars of WWE, who's now the current United States champion, is Logan Paul, the podcaster, boxer, you know, e-celebrity.
Wow. Okay.
And Logan Paul is, you know, like he's also a heel in the show. He plays himself like he's Logan Paul. Mm-hmm. Logan Paul in the past had a relationship with Dwayne The Rock Johnson when he was still like coming up as like one of the top podcasters or video YouTubers or whatever. He would actually have like many times he had videos with The Rock. He had Instagram posts with The Rock. And then the whole Japan thing happened where he was in Japan and there was that whole thing with the dead body.
Yeah.
What's that?
In the Suicide Forest.
That's right. That's right. And so The Rock, through his agents, reached out to Logan Paul to basically say to him, we're cutting ties and we'd like you to remove all your posts that have anything to do with you and The Rock from your social media. So he did. And then The Rock never talked to him until he got big again and famous again and started and then came back in the WWE and was getting on top and had his prime energy drink and all that kind of stuff. And then apparently The Rock slid into his DMs and was like, hey bro, what's happening? Like as if nothing happened. Yeah. And I'm not a fan of Logan Paul. Just putting that out there. I don't like him. I think he's awful, but he's money. Right. And the thing is that so they have a real life beef because Logan Paul just was like, he didn't respond. He was like, look, you totally bailed on me at my lowest point. And now you're coming in because I'm back on top. Because I heard that he might even be pressing like Joe Rogan as like the #1 downloaded podcast in the world right now, which is weird, but that I don't think that's true. It could just be his own hype, but that's who you book The Rock against. That's who you book The Rock against. The Rock versus Logan Paul. That's an obvious choice. Logan Paul and him have a real life beef. You could build that story for a while. Do you know how many normies, non-wrestling fans that would like tune in to see The Rock versus Logan Paul? But you put him against Roman Reigns, who's like his family or something. It's just mind-numbing how bad the booking is. And so when I was saying to you before, we should talk about do the right thing. It's like they didn't do the right thing. They did the wrong thing. They did the greedy thing. They did what was best for The Rock. They didn't do what was best for the business. They didn't do what was best for the fans. He claimed he was doing it to save WrestleMania. It's like, Dwayne, WrestleMania has been sold out. It's sold out like within 6 weeks of like going on sale. Like they've got 57,000 seats sold to both shows.
Holy
sold
crap.
out. So what are you doing? You're just in it for yourself. And it's really because we talked about this in the last episode, like with Vince McMahon hood, we were talking about effeminacy. So effeminacy is those who do that which is pleasurable, that derives them pleasure in exchange for doing that which is the right thing to do, but is hard or arduous. And this is it. The Rock could have worked. He could have worked Royal Rumble. He could have worked through a proper story. But no, he just strapped a rocket on his back and leapfrogged into the main event scene. He didn't do what was right, and it was effeminate. Sorry, The Rock is effeminate. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is totally effeminate. So,
well, he probably has steroid shrunken balls. So
I don't want to get into a big thing about The Rock, but I mean, it's not looking good. He's not looking like a good person through all this. So
Well, I think there's a lot with the people like The Rock and celebrity in general. There's a lot of drive to like create face and show that face, and sometimes you're concealing the problems that are underneath. I think that's like one of the themes of this show is talking about how, what if instead of trying to preserve face all the time, like we just had we were respected because we were honest and truthful people. When you fuck up, you just say like, hey, I fucked up a little bit.
Well, that's the thing.
And in like a high trust and low context society, you can say like, hey, I messed up, I messed this up, we had this problem. Vince McMahon is a terrible person. We're going to try and move past that. And people would say, yeah, let's all try and move past that. Whereas you try and do this kind of like face thing where you bring The Rock back and you make him a hero again. Like he's got to be almost 50 now. Like,
yeah, I mean, like he looks like he's in shape, but the funny thing is that show muscles aren't worker muscles.
Again, that's
right?
It's all face. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's gonna get gassed like real early in the match. Like if he's not working in a ring, he's not in ring shape. He's gonna look terrible.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Roman Reigns works a very slow match, but it's not gonna make up for it. The fans are gonna suffer. The fans are gonna suffer for this. Because
absolutely.
they've already bought their tickets. They were expecting Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, and they didn't get it. So, it's just like I can't believe that we're stuck in this position right now where, I shouldn't be complaining about it. It's still just wrestling, but there's a big part of me that wishes that the WWE would just die.
Yeah.
I think it's time. I really wish that the WWE would just die, and not saying I'm like pro AEW. I want territories to come back. And I know I've been told that'll never come back, but I think, because I love indie wrestling when I was back home. I like going to, I worked shows in Vancouver. I worked shows in Calgary. I worked shows in Portland, worked shows in, different areas. I like that. There's a regional aspect to it. So back in the day, for example, like Jerry Lawler, the reason why Andy Kaufman chose Memphis to be the wrestling company that he would go and work in is because Memphis was the most crazy story-driven territory in the country. Yeah. It made sense. And I would love that, because then essentially, if you get a guy like The Rock who maybe people want to see or maybe people don't want to see, you could have him go from town to town or do those, like if it's not working in this territory, send him to the other one and then he starts anew and everything works. So but that's never coming back because everything is
corporatized and homogenized.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was tasked with doing a landing page for a company that was buying the assets from another company that went bankrupt. And this is a company that at one point in time was close to $1 billion and then ended up being like going bankrupt. And so this other company came in and bought their assets that they had spent $300 million of R&D on and got them for like less than $1 million. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to find other examples that were like that. And it was hard to find them. But, in the process, I was looking at it and it's like, for example, there was this big, miracle that happened to Hostess brands, the guys who make Twinkies. Mm-hmm. So there was a period of time where Twinkies weren't even being made anymore and people were in an uproar. They're like, where can I get Twinkies from? And so these smart guys kind of came in and they bought it for, I think, $350 million, the assets and everything like that. And then they ended up like spinning it into a new company, marketing it right, taking care of it. And now it's just gotten sold to Smucker or JB Smuckers for like $6.5 billion. Right. So they made their money back big time. But the one that we were talking about actually was Marvel. I was talking to my buddy about Marvel. So in the 90s, not a lot of people know this, but Marvel was like basically on its deathbed. And it was so close to being done. And there was a smart investor that came in and basically kept it on life support and then like worked it out so that because they knew there was some good assets there. But at the time, like in the 90s, like there were sci-fi movies and there was some action flicks, but there wasn't that market yet for the cape shit. And so once the cape shit came in, because like by the time Disney bought Marvel, that was after Iron Man
that was after the Avengers. It was right before the Avengers.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
had
bought
like
it for
rebuilt
$4
the brand.
billion. But this guy, like basically this group got Marvel for like pennies on the dollar. And so everybody talks about like, yeah, they like Disney bought Marvel for $4 billion. They probably got maybe about what 20 billion, 25 billion so far from just Marvel movie box offices and stuff. But you know, I hope to see WWE die because it's just so managed poorly. Go ahead.
Going back to that, like buying a brand and building it. Speaking of The Rock, that is one of the. So you talked about how he always gets paid. One of a big thing that celebrities are doing now, The Rock among them, is they'll like buy these small brands and then use their fame to build them and then sell them. So like one of the big ones was Ryan Reynolds bought Aviation Gin, which was like this nothing distillery, I think out of Portland. And
right.
Then, put a amount of money into it to build it up and advertise it, and then use his celebrity to build its brand reputation, and then sold it for like 10 times what it's worth. He's doing the same thing with Mint Mobile right now. The Rock did it with like a tequila and a couple other businesses.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of them. Yeah, Dan Aykroyd did that with tequila,
Crystal Skull vodka. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the guy who did the best off of that, I thought, was 50 Cent. Didn't 50 Cent make a ton of money off of like vitamin water back in like the early 2000s?
Something like that.
I think he made like way more money off of his vitamin water than he did ever as a rapper.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if I'm creative artists and I want my client to do well, that would be probably a good business decision to say, yeah, let's get you to buy something like that's kind of flailing. Actually, it's funny because we had over Christmas, I had Stu on and we did commentary over It's a Wonderful Life. And so It's a Wonderful Life was actually it was in the public domain for like 30 years. And then what ended up happening was Blockbuster Video bought the rights to the story that it was based on, and then they used their legal arm to say any derivative products that come from the story are still under copyright. And then they've sold that, and it got sold down a few times, and now it's with NBC. And NBC, while I was doing my stream, there was a flag, and it cut the stream completely. So that means that YouTube has built in its algorithms. It knows the songs. It knows the credit sequence. It knows everything that's going into it. And it's ridiculous because it's like that was in the public domain for quite a while. We talked over it. We stopped it lots of times throughout it. It's been on TV. Most people know of it because it was in the public domain. It was what the regional television networks would be able to play it for free and do, get people to have some holiday programming.
Yeah.
Also, a Christmas movie that does have a mention of the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
It's a Wonderful Life does.
Yeah, it does. Through the kids are preparing for a Christmas pageant at the end, and they're asking how to spell like Bethlehem, and they're singing. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King, Jesus Christ our Lord. Like they actually mention him. So that chalk that one up for a Chaco approved, totally fine Christmas movie. But I will eventually try to find another one for next year when I do a Christmas movie, and I will find one that actually is truly in the public domain. But there was some slim pickings, man, and I ain't doing Santa Claus versus the Martians. But
to answer Mr. Kill Everything's question, I'm smoking a Cohiba Blue.
Oh yeah, I didn't put that on the screen yet. Yeah, Cohiba is my favorite of the Cuban cigars.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you get a cute Cohiba Blue there? How does that work? I thought the U.S.
Oh,
wasn't allowed to
they're
get.
not. They're Ecuadorian. They're not actually
Okay,
Cubans.
gotcha. Whereas I got these guys, which are like the Paraguayan special. It's like $5. You get like 40 of them in a bag, and they're all natural, and they work out okay on my end. But
yeah,
I do get Cohibas when I get a chance when I go into Asuncion, but I can't get them out near me. Basically, if I was a cigarette smoker, I'd be fine out here, but I am not a cigarette smoker, never will be. So, but
you're missing out,
man. So, have you ever had anything like when we're saying about do the right thing? Have you ever had any times where you have had to do the right thing, like at work or like do something that was gonna like really hurt you to be honest about it, but did it anyway?
Just a couple months ago, the Glass Studio, I discovered that they had. So I work as a bartender, and then I also I'll narrate demos. When I narrate the demos, I get paid $100. It's like an hour and a half of work. Pretty good deal. I just use that to pay for more studio time. And so I got my bi-weekly check or how often they come, and I got paid for 3 demos that I had done that month and deposited the check. And then a couple weeks later, I got the next check, and I got paid for 3 demos on that, and I didn't really think about it, but I had deposited the check at work. And so I had the previous check was like sitting on my dresser, and then the other check was sitting on my desk at work because I used my phone to deposit it.
You guys can do that. Yeah.
Just left it on my desk, not thinking about it. And so maybe a week or more went by, but one day, like while I was getting dressed in the morning, I saw the one check, and then later in the day, I'm standing at my desk and I see the other check, and I thought, I think these are the same dates on this thing. So I went and brought the other one home and compared the two, and sure enough, I had been paid $300 twice for two the same set of demos 2 times. And so I went and took my check in, both checks in, and I was like, "Hey guys, look, you double paid me for these 3 demos twice. So however you want to handle this."
Though down the road, because you can look at yourself, because there's a type of people out there like they're like, I got away with one. It goes back to the whole high trust, low trust thing. Like, I pulled this one off.
That was the thing. I was talking to someone about it, and the same thing had happened to them. Like the accounting person had made a mistake and like just double paid this whole 2 weeks of demos. And so that person had also been double paid and was like, "Oh, don't do it. Don't say anything, because then they'll catch all of us." And I was like, I'm trying to purloin my part-time job here into a full-time job here. So I would much rather walk into an interview for a future job and be like, "Hey, remember that time I gave you back $300 for no reason?"
It'll help the cause.
Yeah. And so I didn't go in there and be like, "Hey, you double paid everyone." Like I could have done that. That probably been the more right thing to do. But I don't want to necessarily screw over someone who really needed that extra $100 while I don't. So there's a line there of how right was I in what I did, but I did enough that I didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah, I had a similar sort of thing with one of my clients. Well, my primary client, I bill them quarterly, and so they send me a transfer, and it's usually it's a good chunk of change because it's like 3 months of pay all at once. And it was shortly after I got down here to Paraguay, and I thought that they could transfer directly from Canada to Paraguay, but they didn't have something set up. And in order to receive into Paraguay, I can't send Canadian dollars. They need to be transferred into US dollars before they can be brought. So I sent the guy.
Uh-oh. He's had another power hiccup. Now he's frozen.
And then here we go. We're back. Okay.
Yeah.
So I told him to okay. When he told me he couldn't send it to Paraguay, I said, okay, just send it to my Canadian account and we'll flip it over there. He took my Canadian amount and paid me in US dollars that amount. So like way more than what it should have been. And I noticed it right away, and I told him right away. And then he was like, okay, don't worry about it. We'll catch you on the next one. We'll just kind of dock whatever the difference was on the next one. So when the next one came, he forgot and did that again. So I actually just to him the difference. And it's just like those kind of things you got to do, because the thing is that like, what are you supposed to do afterwards? Like play dumb or like, ha, it's your fault. Like, who does that? And like, right. So on the old show, I think I talked a lot about my crappy neighbors. Well, it's coming to a head. It's getting really nasty now. Because it turns out when I bought my property, I bought 4.5 hectares. It was all in the title. It was all totally covered. They went through. There's no liens. There's no entitlements. There's no encumbrances or anything like that. Nothing is on there. It's totally clean and clear. But I was told that the people that were living over there, that they had a private contract that said they have the rights to stay there, and they were just working on partitioning it out to get it into their own land title. But they didn't do it over 17 years. And so what ended up happening was I got sold the thing. I got told that there was a private contract. Turns out there isn't. They have no documents. They have nothing. So legally, I can kick them to the curb. Like, legally, I have the right. Like, they have squatters' rights, sort of, but they would have had to have filed on that before. They would have had to prove it before, and they didn't. They don't have the money to do it. And like, I looked at the market value. I looked at everything, and I was like, I went to them. I was like, look, you have to go, but I'm going to give you more than market value for this, and you will be able to buy another piece of land anywhere near us, or just not directly near us. And they didn't understand that. And so they're basically playing hardball to the point of like basically saying, just kick us off then, go ahead and try. And it's like, so I'm trying to figure out what is the right thing to do, because I should just, they've been jerks the whole time, but it's like, we're talking about like senior citizens and then their kids and their grandkids. I can't stand their kids and their grandkids, but the senior citizens, look, they don't have that long left. And so it's not like, it's not like they can go to work and get something going. They're living off of like basically welfare. So we came up with the other idea, because it's like every time I talk to them, they're like, you can buy another piece of land. So today I spent a good chunk of my time in the afternoon looking around, finding lots that are in this general vicinity. And I'm just going to buy the lot and give it to them. And on the condition, you got to just take your stuff. Just take I'll clean the rest.
Your
take
shit
your
and
stuff
get out.
and go. Because they burn their garbage, they poop in the woods, they throw their garbage over onto my side of the fence. They play loud music all the time. They're just the worst. They're just and when I mean loud, okay, like maybe it's just my European heritage in me or something, but like I like loud music, but not like that loud. Like there's this thing about Paraguayans and other people, other cultures, where they can play music like at least 5 times louder than the rest of us can, because it's just like they treat it like they're at Woodstock, but like, they're just at their own house. Like it's ridiculous. These guys will play it so incredibly loud. I think I told you before on the other show. Yeah. I ended up having to blast the immigrant song at them. Yeah. When I was going back. And I've had to do that a few times now. The last time I had it, I played Basement Jaxx "Where's Your Head At?" because I thought that would be a really annoying song to wake up to hungover. But it's just like they're the worst, but they're not so bad that I am going to literally bulldoze their homes and give them nothing. I kind of should, but I couldn't live with myself if I did that. I just couldn't live with myself. So we're going to make it work. I'm basically saying to them, like, you can either take the money that I would use to buy this lot, or I'm going to buy the lot and you're going to just have to go to it. And that's it. Like, and I'll put the title in your name. You'll actually have an asset that you never had before. You'll actually have an asset, and you could put modern plumbing in. Because I'll buy a lot that
moves into classic white man moves into a native population and Trail of Tears them right out of their homes.
I legally bought it. Their family legally sold it to the guy I bought it off of, and this one guy's the holdout. Ugh. It'll be so great when they're gone. Yeah. Man, oh man! Speaking of the right thing, I've been doing a lot of research on solar panels and solar power, and it's like I'm looking into it for like logistics, not for like morality. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it for any of that. It's just like literally like the reason why I got bounced from the stream at the beginning is because the power is not. It's very poorly handled. Ever since the election happened, I don't know what they've done. I think they've restructured who's where in there, and they're so incredibly incompetent now that now we're having literally a power outage a day. Just like literally, like I've turned into Kenya. It's like we're getting brownouts all the time. It's just I'm feeling the third world, and it's like, okay, all right, let's get over this. So I once I'm done kicking my neighbors off to the curb, I will probably look into getting solar power and stuff like that. But even that, I was actually looking into it for like health purposes to see, like, it's like having a bunch of panels on your roof, is that bad for your health? Is that what's the power like? Because like the power supply here is so terrible that like when I was wearing my CPAP machine, it would actually partially be electrocuting my face all night long. So I ended up having to buy like a battery that you would take like camping, like one of those big portable ones, like big heavy battery. And so I charge it during the day, and then I run my machine through it at night, and I unplug it so that basically even if there's a power outage, I won't know. I'll just sleep right through it and everything will be good. But yeah, man, how are you doing in the post here's what I don't get phase now that you've been out for a few months now? Do you miss it?
6 months or so. Yeah. I mean, I miss the camaraderie of it. I thought that I would be like a lot more pent up with aggression.
But you're not pent up with aggression anymore.
No, I've been
you lost 60 pounds of aggression.
Yeah, I've been relatively calm in my life, and I've definitely like gone through some trials with work and my personal life,
ankle and
getting injured, and when the show was going on, that was like my outlet for a lot of my frustrations in life. And now I find a little bit more in
glass
working in glass, and I have a lot more free time to go spend time with my friends and do that. And so like and some of the things I was doing were not as constructive as they could have been. So that was one of the things I did at the beginning of this year, was like try and reframe some of my life choices. So like I decided that I'm not going to drink until my birthday, partially to lose weight, partially to like reset my relationship with alcohol, partially because I figure losing 60 80 pounds is like the final goal, the total. When I do drink again, I won't have this, like, I will have broken my tolerance by taking a break, and then I'll also break my tolerance by not having as much mass to store it.
Right.
So I will be able to go like drink and get a buzz and not have it take like a third of a bottle of whiskey to do that, which is a lot less
a good
expensive.
direction to go in.
Yeah. And like yeah, so like there's definitely been struggles. There was definitely a period of time there, especially at the end of the year, where I was like regulating my emotions through alcohol, that I was like, I should probably stop doing this. But
well, you're looking good, man. You're looking healthy. You got a better color to your skin. Maybe it's the nebulas behind you, but you look like you're in a good headspace.
I'm in a pretty good headspace. I mean, like I said, there's always challenges, and there's always things like I'd very much like to find a new job. I've very much been considering like departing theater as an industry for the last, 4 or 5 months. And trying to
So the
figure
right
out,
thing's on its way,
yeah,
hopefully.
trying to figure out how to do that in a way that I can get a job that like maintains my current standard of living or leverages some of my skill set without having to sacrifice working a tremendous amount of hours again or taking a huge pay cut to the point where I can't go do the things that I do that are like my free time and the things that I
Mm.
find enjoyment in. Because I don't want to like work to live to work anymore. I really want to work to live. And that's been a good balance that I found this last year of really trying to commit to doing things that I want to do and not just doing the things that I've always done because I've always done them.
It makes such a big difference. It really makes a big difference. Like I do work to live, but I was able to craft myself into a career that at least allows me a lot more free time
Mhm.
than most people. And I get a chance to, I work from home. We homeschool. I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my family every day. Like it's very rare for me to not have a meal with every member of my family, which is nice. But at some point in time, like that's why I like looking at these, solar power, getting the animals and all this. Like we've got 56 ducks now. Like we have like
That's a lot of
56.
ducks.
We started with 7. We have 56 ducks now. These Muscovy ducks, they reproduce like crazy. But
They don't fly, right?
they kind of do. They kind of hover. But they don't really fly.
Yeah.
They're funny and they don't quack either. But we had the mallards and stuff that we had from before, like that come more like North American ducks. Like they were noisy. They were funny. Like it was almost like every time they'd be quacking, it sounded like they were telling jokes or laughing at the
Mhm.
chickens. We're looking into building hutches for like meat rabbits. And like everybody, like the second they hear meat rabbits, like don't eat just rabbit, you'll get like the rabbit disease or whatever, the malnourishment. And it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, we're fine. We've got other things. We've got fish, and I've got ducks, and I've got we had to give up on the lambs. That's just not going to happen. But actually, meat rabbits is a way to go because apparently, unlike chickens, so you get pretty much like a chicken sized, like, carcass every time that you process them. But you can feed them just grass. You don't always have to buy them processed like feed. You
Yeah.
can feed them just grass, and they reproduce like crazy. And like you don't have to defeather them. They're a lot easier to just skin, and you can have it processed like really quickly. So we're looking into that. That's coming up. My mom is coming to visit us in March. So I'll be seeing my mom for the first time since 2021, which is
Wow, that's a while.
that's absolutely the longest time I've gone without, seeing my mom in person. Like, video calls don't do it justice. And so she's coming down. We're really psyched about that. Um, but yeah, I had to, during the hiatus period, I kind of had to give some thought about how I do this show with the time difference. So I was like 2 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So in order to get a good guest, right, I'd be like starting at like 11 p.m. my time, and I'm still a dad, and I still have to like get up in the morning with everybody,
Mhm.
and like it just wasn't feasible. So I'm still looking at getting some guests. I got some fun guests that are kind of in the hopper to come in the next little while, but I was thinking maybe along the lines of, here's what I don't get, had the nice rotation. I would love to try to get something where I'm basically bringing in my favorite people. Get if I have a chance to get you on once a month, or if I get a chance, Mr. Black's one of my favorite guys, and I'm glad he's basically my Tim the Handle Breaker.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy that I would go to war for. The kind of guy that you'd stay up talking for 5-6 hours straight, and
Mhm.
it would just, it's great. And then of course Sully is he'll be an easy regular. He's doing well down here. We had that first show.
Yeah, Don Chaco returned to the ring.
Don Chaco returned to the ring
weeks ago.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that was
not expect that at all.
You sent me that video, and the first version was all in
Spanish,
Guarani, right? And I was like, I have
no, it was partly in Guarani, but it was. I only did a little bit in Guarani, and then I did the rest of it in Spanish.
It was enough of a foreign language that I had no idea what was going on, other than the
right.
That's
why I put the subtitles on the second one.
On the second one, yeah, and
it was clear, so you could understand what was going on. Man, because like Luchando ended in 2015, so we're coming up on 9 years since they saw me in the ring down here, and like these are not old wrestling fans, so like they would have been like kids,
yeah.
And so when I came out of the curtain, I was expecting to have to explain who the hell I am, and get through it. I still did that, but I mean, like I was expecting to have to tell everybody who I am. That did not need. I did not need that. I had a bigger pop. I had a bigger pop than The Rock when I came out.
Yeah,
chanting my name. I'm like, you're not supposed to be chanting my name. I'm supposed to be a heel.
Yeah, that was pretty
cool. But and that was the thing when I did Luchando. There was a part of me that was hoping that would be the thing, that I could live the thing, doing the thing that I love. And I realized at the time, your work doesn't need to be the thing you love, because when I was doing it, it made me love it less.
Yeah.
It made me love it less. It became a grind. It became all encompassing. It was too much. So one of the things that I like about my job is that I've gotten it to the point where it's so automatic to me that, I mean, it doesn't haunt my sleep. I don't think about it outside of work time. Occasionally I have to answer emails, like I'm always on call, basically. But at the same time, I can get it done quicker and then have time to go in my pool, or I can get it done quicker and I can have time to go into town and, go get groceries with no problem and all that kind of stuff. Like I like it, but like I'm interested to hear how your story continues here as you look for new work and figure out something that comes out. Because if you can get something that allows you to have that peace, that would be amazing.
So I went to the studio, the Glass Studios Christmas party in January. As a holiday after the New Year party, but the, for lack of a better term, freshman glass blowers, we ended up all there at a table together, hanging out and closing the place. But the owner joined us kind of later in the evening, and he was talking to the guy that was immediately to my right, and I just kind of like listened in on the conversation mostly. And he founded the studio. He's a glass blower, and he worked for 20 plus years blowing glass before they founded the studio, and it's been 20 years since they founded the studio. And in that time he was working as a making art, but he doesn't so much do it. And so he was talking about how coming in and blowing glass doesn't thrill him anymore like it did when he was younger, because when he's there, there's always like business stuff that needs to be taken care of, and so he can't focus on doing that. But even then, when he's making the art, he's making it for sale. He's not making these things that are like self-fulfilling. And so he said he really gets a lot more reward out of like keeping the business aspect going and making sure the place stays open and creating and like having a place for us to come and make art. And that he's been really pleased over the last year to see like all these new faces who are committed to coming out regularly and making things and selling things. And like that is so much more rewarding than him going in there and actually making one physical item.
I like that. That's kind of a cool turnaround. I like that.
In that conversation, I was like, that's the way I feel about theater now. Like I used to have this passion. I used to know viscerally in the part of my body that just knows things that's what I wanted to do. And at some point, it stopped being true. And I'm not even really certain where that point was in my life, but there was a point where it was no longer like the doing it was no longer fulfilling. And so, it was interesting to hear someone have that, basically describing my exact situation, but like different nouns and adjectives.
Could you ever see yourself like running your own like theater?
Hell no.
No,
Never.
Okay.
No.
Like in a small town somewhere in Norway.
No. I ran the union in Tulsa, and management doesn't appeal to me at all. I like the like hands-on in the moment solving of problems. That's what always that was
What about writing a
attracted me.
play? Have you ever thought about writing a play?
I'm not a writer.
Okay.
I like the challenge and solving the problem with like the limited time and the limited budget and the limited tools and like all those limitations and figuring out something that like services the story and functions well with the other people. And one of the things that I found frustrating over the last 5 years is, in moving to a more managerial role, I can't be the hands-on solution person as much. And then even when I am providing the solutions, like so much of my job is trying to solve the problems ahead of time, and the shows all have the same problems over and over again. And so there's no reward in solving the same problem for the 70th time. There was reward when I was, 20 or 25 and solving a new problem for
I know
the
that
first time.
feeling.
And and in my craft as a as a theater designer was always to like try and make the next one better than the last one every single time. And a lot of people don't work that same way, which I find extremely frustrating. And now in a managerial sense, I've solved this problem for client A, and then client B comes in and they have the same problem, and I have to solve that problem again. And then client C comes in, they have the same problem. And even if you try and tell them, hey, you have this problem, and I can fix it, that sometimes they'll fight you on that. Sometimes they'll take the solution, but then sometimes when they come back, they don't remember. And so then you're back to client A again, and you have the same issue. And it's like, if you would just listen for 5 seconds and make a note, or you build a good relationship with client A, and then the person you're working with at client A leaves to go work for someone else. And now there's a new person in client A, and that person has their own ideas. And now they're like, well, what if we did it this way? Like, well, we tried that and it didn't work. Like, oh, well, but I think it'll work this time. Like, okay, let's try it again. Don't listen to me. What could I possibly know?
I have that with clients that come in because they're like, oh, I've been in the stock market doing this forever, yada, yada, yada. I've got all this experience. It's like, yeah, have you been writing like 2 to 3 articles every day for the last like 10, 15 years? Yeah. I didn't think you did. So yeah, why don't you let me do what I do? And and I'll tell you how it will work. I do know that feeling because there was a point in time where I would get these new things for my work. Because every time I started only writing about oil and gas. And then I was asked if I could learn how to do mining. And then I was asked if I could learn how to do tech. And then I was asked if I could, like, there was a period of time where it was like cannabis was a big thing. And then it was like all these different things. And at first I was like, no, I only write about oil and gas. And then it was like, okay, no, I only write about oil and gas and I only write about mining. And then after a while, I was like, okay, I've already learned how to do mining, so I should be able to learn other things. So I kind of branched out because there was a period of time where I was like, I'm not going to write about blockchain. I'm not going to write about crypto. I don't want to do any of that. And then after a while, it was like, actually, no, I'll just take on anything. I'll learn it all. And, for a while, it was a nice challenge. It was really interesting. I get these new things. I'd have to learn all about them. Now it's just all automatic. The only satisfaction I get from it is when I hit send and I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
People will bring up to me like, oh, like, how many articles have you written on this subject? I'm like, I don't know, hundreds, like hundreds. Or they'll say, oh, I can't believe you turned that around so fast. And it's like, yeah, I can.
That's what I do.
It's what I do. And it's like, well, give me some of your examples of your work. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to like look in my like file folder or something. Like, don't you have the links? I'm like, I never look up the links. You don't read your own. No, I don't. They're like, these don't have your name on them. Yeah. I don't even put my name on them anymore because I don't care.
Yeah. My crew is all young, new, and eager theater people. And then then there's me. I'll be 33 in a couple of months. I've been working in theater. I've been getting paid to work in theater since I was 16. I was working in theater before that. I've done hundreds of shows. I've done everything from one night stands as the only technical person on a dance show in a space, and all the way to like big Broadway tours as a head lighting. I've done all kinds of things. And so they'll be talking about the show we did last year and how this thing happened. And I'm like,
it's a
don't
blank.
remember that at all. And they're like, well, yeah. Then they'll tell me about it. And no, I believe you. I as soon as the show's over, it's pretty much all gone.
And that's actually like one of my best friends is he's a concert or he's in a symphony orchestra in Europe. And at one point in time, he was in the Philharmonic in Calgary. He plays the bass. And so there's times where I'm asking him, like, have you ever played this? And he's like, yeah. And like, you go through all the things, and it's like, have you played that? Yes, I've played it. Like, as much as you hate the Nutcracker, he hates it more. Because he's been playing it since he was 12, and it's every year. And then, but it's funny because like even still, he still has favorites, even though he's played certain ones like many times. He still has favorites, and I have to say, I have to appreciate that. I think it's wonderful that you can play as many times as he has and still have favorites that you enjoy playing. Like, you sent me a link to a jazz band that plays Led Zeppelin covers.
Yeah.
And because if you think about it, it's like if you're like Robert Plant or you're the Rolling Stones or something, like they've got songs they have played so many times.
Mm-hmm.
How do you summon the energy to go out there and do it again? But I like that that jazz band did it, because it's like clearly they're like skilled musicians. They know what they're doing. And then they're playing something they love. They clearly love Led Zeppelin. And there's enough Led Zeppelin bands out there that to have as cover bands, but to do it their way, I like that. It was an interesting thing. Like,
so I went to I hate concerts. I white hot hate concerts. Again, I've gone to hundreds of concerts. Most of them I've been paid to go to. Tim the Handlebreaker, he loves going to concerts. He's out on tour working on stuff, and he'll go to a concert after his show. And I'm just like, you're out of your mind. But
how old is he's
like my same age.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I used to love concerts. Like, hate them now. Hate them now.
But so I found this band, Jazz is Led, via Spotify, because I was looking for genre covers, and I was specifically looking for jazz covers of popular music. And so I found this band, and I was like, I've always loved Led Zeppelin. I love jazz, and I listened to a couple of their things, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And then on Instagram, the City Winery here, they were like, hey, Jazz is Led is going to be playing at the City Winery on February 1st. And I immediately was like, I'm gonna go see them play. And so Dick Masterson describes the Great Magnet, and this is like a true Great Magnet story. So their tickets go on sale. I buy a whole table because I don't want to sit with anyone. I don't want to sit with strangers, rather. So I'm like, I'll find 3 people to go see this concert with. And so I didn't look at the calendar to see what day it was. I just bought the tickets. And so then I finally look at the calendar, and it's a Thursday, which is the day that I have a glass blowing class. And it's also one of the Thursdays that I'm supposed to skip class to go back to work and work a show, because my ATD can't work that Thursday. So I send the production manager a message, and I ask her, hey, I have this concert I want to go to on this day. Can you cover the show? And I can't cover the show. I have an event going on that I have to go to. And I'm like, well, crap, I really want to go see this show. And so my ATD, it's his night with his son, and I don't want to have him work on one of those nights. And so we talk kind of briefly about the day. I'm like, I'm trying to figure this out. He's like, we'll see what happens. So the next day he comes into work, and he's like, yeah, I was talking to my son's mom. she has something going on that Thursday, so we're trading Thursday for Friday, so I can cover
nice.
Thursday and you can go to the show. And I was
fun.
like, that's perfect. That's exactly what I needed. So
love that.
Find some people to go with. I expect that we're going to go to this show. I'm going to be loving it, and they're going to be sitting there like, this is awful. Everybody has a good time. We find our way down to a speakeasy that's like underneath the venue, and continue to have a good time. It ended up being like a really great night, and I was really happy that everyone else enjoyed it, because I thought for sure it was just going to be me just like, this is awesome, and then being like, this is definitely something. Glad the tickets were free.
But you had a good time. And you know what I also like is that, yeah, you went to a speakeasy after, you're still not drinking and you still had a really good time. Like,
yeah,
that's a good sign that you come out the other end. That's a really good sign. Well, I want to say real quick to anybody who's watching right now, most of you are commenting on YouTube. I know it's easier for you, but if you could just go into the not in the comments, into the description of the videos. It's on any of my videos, and you'll see all the different links for all the other different places. I mean, after YouTube bounced me and warned me, they didn't give me a strike, but the next time I get caught, I get like a whole week suspension. And I would love to make sure everybody's like still around. And so I'm on Rumble, I'm on Trovo, I'm on this Twitch, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Vaughn, I'm on Odyssey. All the links are in there. If there's any of those other platforms that you frequent or something, I would love it if you could just go and start watching on Rumble or start watching on any of the other ones, because Rumble didn't kick me off when we were doing the It's a Wonderful Life. Odyssey didn't kick me off. So, let's reward some of those other platforms for not being jerks if we can, and get them going. And if you aren't always around to like watch the show or catch it this way, we do have it on. Well, I say we as if there's a team behind me, but the royal we, the editorial. But any of the podcast platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple Store, all of them, you'll find the show. Just look up High Trust, Low Context, and you can get it all in audio format only. And yeah, man, I just want to like see if we can get people to do the other things. But oh dear, okay. Mr. Kill Other Thing says, I like Kick, but is being stupid and not letting me follow you. Oh dear. Yeah, I forgot I have Kick as well. I think, yeah, Kick might have booted me or something because it's not even showing up anymore. But I'll get that one sorted. Kick is all right. Vaughn was supposed to be pretty good too. It's just the way we are right now. I mean, there's a lot of good people that I've followed, and then you think they like just went away. It's like, no, they're just not on YouTube anymore.
Banned from this platform.
And like, I don't have that many subscribers, so I'm still under the radar. But the fact that like It's a Wonderful Life got me booted, just something to put out there. It'd be great to get other things going. I'd love to see those other things. I also repost everything on BitChute as well. But the problem with BitChute is they have a 2 gigabyte limit on their videos. So even after I do, like, I try to make it as like low quality as possible, I still have a hard time like compressing it and getting it to go on there. So not every episode is on there, but if you could, that would be wonderful. I'd love it if we could get some, something, not just YouTube, would be great. But I mean, again, if YouTube's your comfort zone and that's what's on your phone or on your set top box or whatever you're watching things, Apple TV or Roku or something, that's cool too. But just wanted to put that out there. I would love to see if we can get it so it's not just on YouTube, because yeah, I mean, it's not like we're really broaching into real dark territory, although the Zach King episode, Zach King
episode was pretty wild.
Would you do it again? I want to bring him back.
Yeah, I'll talk to him again.
Yeah, I want to bring him back. He's looking for support. He's going through a rough one. Like, he's legally blind. He's had major health issues and stuff like that. So any help he could get his way, that would be great. But yeah, man, I've enjoyed this. We've been on for an hour and a half. I didn't even come in with a real topic. I just said, like, let's talk about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I normally like to like prep, like do video things and try to do the background, but not this week. Not this week. It wasn't going to happen. So, and we got off to the hot start where I bounced out. And that actually happened to me when I had E. Michael Jones on. When I had E. Michael Jones on, my internet kicked out right as I had already started the 5-minute countdown. So I ran into the house and actually, like, just rejiggered everything so that I could get like the backup internet. And I ran back in time and I just caught it with like 30 seconds left in the video. So sometimes having that 5-minute countdown at the beginning is very helpful. And it's also another place where I like to put my, just to get a little creative outlet in there. Sometimes I kind of pick the things based on that and go with that. But yeah, man, I love having you on. I'd love to have you on frequently. I'm going to be closer to you in time zones just around the corner. It'll only be a 1 hour difference instead of a 3 hour difference, that's a significant one. That's a significant one because it's still early where you are, but it's like 10:15 my time. So it's like getting there. So yeah, man, I wanted to thank you for coming back. And
I do want to plug one thing.
Yeah, please.
March 15th through the 19th, I'll be driving from St. Louis, Missouri to Portland, Oregon. So if you are in the southern part of Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, or Portland, let me know and I'll stop on the way. We can grab a bite to eat or something. I don't know if anyone's on that path. But
what's going on in Portland?
Nothing. Well, nothing's going on in Portland. I'm on my way to Seattle.
Okay.
Seattle's my final destination, and then at the end of that week, like the 23rd, I'll start my drive back through Montana, South Dakota, and Nebraska again. But
Seattle's the U.S. city I know the best because I've been to the most. Because
this will be my first time.
It's, you know what? Seattle's not bad. It's like Vancouver, but with like a lot more black people.
Yeah, I'm going to a conference, and so because I hate flying, I decided to rent a car and drive it's gonna be 63 hours of driving back and forth.
Things to do while you're there. The music experience, something. There's like a music history museum thing. It's pretty cool. I think it's like the experimental music something. Maybe it's EMP or EM something, but look it up. And then if you're downtown and you come across it, after you've gone to if you go to the fish market, there's like an underground tour that flat earthers would love and the Tartarian people would love, because basically like it's saying that like Seattle was at one time lower, and you go underneath because they had some sort of a mudslide that like took out like a good chunk of the city, and so you could actually go underneath and you see like these storefronts and stuff from like the 1800s that are still intact. And it's definitely a cool thing to go and check out if you're in Seattle.
Kind of like Demolition Man.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to go to while you're there. Yeah, you're gonna have Seattle's not bad. It's just I could never live there. And Sully's from Portland, so maybe I'll connect you up with him. He might know some people you can stop by on the way through or something like that.
I'm visiting my sister in Portland for a couple of days on the way to Seattle. So
all right.
Look forward to that. Yeah.
I prefer Seattle to Portland, but Portland's all right in its own way, I guess. So, but yeah, man, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
I've been looking forward to this. We just, time flies, but let's get you back on in March. And this has been High Trust, Low Context. I'm Al Chaco. Thank you again to Tab Birt for joining us. We'll see you later. Viva Cristo Rey.